Hello everyone, I'm Barrett Peterson, Mayor of Franklin Park, and this is Franklin Park Volume 8. Today we have a unique program complicated by the fact that the material is important and not easily digested or shortened, but all very important. Rather than try to pick out highlights and present them as a single program, we're dividing the material into 3 programs so that everything can be included. This show, Franklin Park Volume 8, like all of these presentations, are 28 minutes and 55 seconds long. The material recorded at the town hall meeting to discuss the village's asset management study and the What Your Water's Worth presentation by Josh Ellis from the Metropolitan Planning Council and Franklin Park's beautiful center at North Park is almost 2 hours long. Obviously, it can't all fit in one show. Additionally, we have material that has been waiting for some time to be aired, and we think you're going to enjoy the event of welcoming a new business to Franklin Park. This one is a restaurant called Smoked on Rose. It is getting rave reviews, and we think you'll enjoy it. So, we have a lot to do. Time is wasting. Let's get started with the What Your Water's Worth presentation by Josh Ellis. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Barrett Peterson, the mayor, and this gentleman is going to be here for a good part of the night. So if you want to see, or you can't see the screen, or you can't see the speaker, and you'd like to move now, that would be a good idea. He's going to be standing here for the rest of the night, so if you'd like to get a better seat, or you'd like to move into the front. Tonight we're going to have 3 speakers. Josh Ellis is going to be talking about what your water's worth. Ron Heller is going to be talking about the state of the water and sewer funds. And Dave Talbot is going to be talking about the condition of our utilities. And as Josh's presentation will point out, Franklin Park is in the same situation as all the other municipalities in the United States. We have a failing infrastructure that is the average 74 years of age and is going to require millions of dollars of removal and replacement or lining. And we'd sort of like to have this presentation, and after each one of the presentations, you'll be asked to, if you want to ask any questions to the presenter. Since we are taping this, we request that you come forward to this microphone here to ask your question. If you don't want to come up here, then whoever is the person that you're asking a question is going to repeat your question for the recordation. So with that, Josh was here a couple years ago talking about what your water's worth. We're pleased that you're back with us again, and thank you for working on this proud program regionally and bringing all this information to us.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Hi, everybody. Was anybody here a couple years ago when I came and spoke? And you came back. That's great. So my name's Josh Ellis. I work for a group called the Metropolitan Planning Council. Next year, we will be 80 years old. A nonprofit civic organization. Our offices are in Chicago, but we work throughout Northeastern Illinois and Northwestern Indiana on a range of regional development issues. I direct our water resources and stormwater programs. We also work on transportation, workforce housing, community development, and a range of other issues. We provide a lot of support to local units of government as they make tough development challenges. We work in Springfield on state policy issues. We do a range of research work, and some of the products of that are in the back. I'm going to talk tonight about water supply systems in Northeastern Illinois, how water moves around, how it's managed, talk a little bit about what it is that we pay for when we pay our water bills, a little bit about national and regional trends on water infrastructure systems, and then just a list of resources that you can use to consider how you manage water here in Franklin Park and how you manage it at your home and at your business. Just to be crystal clear, I'm not affiliated with the city of Franklin Park, and so I'm not actually going to talk much about any detail specific to Franklin Park. The other speakers are going to do that. So just quickly about water resources in Northeastern Illinois. Based on population, in the Northeastern region here, about 77% of our water comes from Lake Michigan, okay? And how that works is that the state of Illinois has a specific amount of water, 3,200 cubic feet per second, which comes out to about 2.1 billion gallons a day. That's how much water we are allowed by the U.S. Supreme Court to remove from Lake Michigan on a daily basis. We are unique. Illinois is unique amongst the Great Lakes states in that we remove water from the Great Lakes and we don't put it back in. Because of the reversal of the Chicago River 100 or so years ago, we divert water out of the lakes. Places like Milwaukee, Gary, Indiana, Detroit, they also use lake water, but they clean up their wastewater and they put it back in the lakes. So we have this set amount that's been set by the U.S. Supreme Court. And as of today, we use somewhere between 90 and 95% of what we're allowed to by the U.S. Supreme Court. So there's some room to grow and use more water. And places like Joliet and Aurora and some of the western suburbs that are currently on groundwater are considering lake water as an option for them. Lake water in this map is distributed to these communities with that sort of hash-marked area there. The remainder of the region, which is the non-hash-marked area, it's basically the green area on the outer rim, uses groundwater from either very deep wells or shallow wells. They operate a little bit differently. And then there are a handful of communities, including Aurora, that use water from either the Fox or the Kankakee rivers. And all of those water resources are managed very differently. You have different management considerations with them. Most of those groundwater communities are not in a situation where they're buying water from another community. They're pumping it directly out of the ground. They have certain treatment requirements that they have to meet. Places that are on river water, the level of those rivers fluctuates very much during the year, and they have different treatment considerations. Everybody's water treatment issues and pumpage and distribution systems are different. The infrastructure and labor and chemicals and energy and everything are different in every community, which is why you have a wide variety of water rates throughout the region. In our region, the other interesting aspect of this is that in the areas of the region that use Lake Michigan water, so they have an extensive system for moving water through pipes from the lakefront west. Those communities, by and large, between 2000 and 2010, lost population. And so there are fewer people and fewer businesses paying for the same pipe system. If someone moved out of Franklin Park and moved to Aurora, they did not take a mile and a half of water main with them when they went. That mile and a half of water main is still here, but there's one less person paying for maintenance of that system. And that's certainly the case for the city of Chicago and many of the other communities that are on Lake Michigan water. Many of them lost population. It moved to the west and to the south to communities that are on groundwater, and that's just the reality of our situation. The state has that amount of water that it can use. That is governed by the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. They have a process by which communities can request an allocation of Lake Michigan water. Chicago pumps the majority of the region's Lake Michigan water and then sells it to its neighbors, and they often then sell it to their neighbors, and then they sell it to their neighbors, and then at least one sells it to a fifth neighbor, right? The furthest community from the lakefront that uses Lake Michigan water is Plainfield, which is on the border of Will and Kendall counties. It's something like 70 miles from the lakefront. And in Plainfield and Bolingbrook and places like that that are multiple steps away from the lake, their water rate, just the water supply rate in Bolingbrook, I think is $16 per 1,000 gallons, which is 4 or 5 times as much as it is in the city of Chicago. That's because Chicago sells to one community, they sell to another, they sell to another, they sell to another, and in the process of that, there are additional costs that come into play, and so the price of the water increases. Chicago, the city of Chicago is not the only unit of government that pumps water and sells it to its neighbors. Evanston, Kenilworth, Waukegan, everybody on the lake shore north of Chicago also pumps water directly. Some of them don't sell it to any neighboring communities, but a handful do. Evanston, Highland Park, Zion, they all sell water to western neighbors. And the same situation that we have in Franklin Park, where Chicago sells water to Franklin Park and there's a markup then when Franklin Park sells it. to you, that happens with those communities. There are a handful of communities south of Chicago. I think there are 10 right now of those southern suburbs that actually buy water from Hammond, Indiana. It is still Lake Michigan water. It still counts in the total amount of water that Illinois can withdraw from Lake Michigan, but it's actually pumped by a treatment plant in Indiana and then comes across the state border. Pretty much every water utility, every community, every municipality in northeastern Illinois has its own water utility. There are very few instances where multiple municipalities have the same water district. It's a little bit different than, say, school districts or park districts or fire or police, where you might have a single service that is covering multiple units of government. By and large, in northeastern Illinois, every water utility is a separate unit embedded in the municipal government. And we have very, very few communities with a private water utility like Illinois American Water or Aqua America. That's the very basics on how the water supply management system in northeastern Illinois works. Okay, so I don't know if your bill monthly, quarterly, bi-monthly, monthly. All right, so every month you get a bill in your mail for water and sewer. When that bill comes, what are you actually paying for? Any thoughts? What does this money go towards? Yes, sir. Criminals. Okay. Sanitation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
According to the financial statements, 25% is for administration.
Yep.
5% is for repairs and maintenance.
Yep.
And the other 50% is to purchase water.
Okay. Good. So the purchase of water is from the Chicago, and then Chicago uses it for administration, treatment of the water, fixing pipes, fixing pumps, installing meters, so on and so forth. The water itself actually has no cost. At no point are we paying for the water, right? If you really want Lake Michigan water, you are free to go to the lakefront and fill up buckets and bring it home. That, however, comes with a transportation cost. It's essentially the same kind of cost that we pay for moving the water from the lake here, right? There really is no free water. Even if you stand outside in the rain, you got to pay to dry your clothes. There is no free water, all right? We pay for the process of treating the water. In Franklin Park's case, it is Chicago that treats the water at the Jardine plant. It's next to Navy Pier. They clean the water and then proceed to pump it, right? The pumpage also comes with a cost. That's an energy cost. The electricity required to pump the pumps and pump the water here. Though it comes through pipes, right? The city of Chicago alone, not counting all the suburbs, the city of Chicago has 4,250 miles of water mains just in the city for moving water both to its own residents, and I live in the city, and to its suburban customers. 4,250 miles is approximately the distance from Miami, Florida to Anchorage, Alaska. Okay? All of that water pipes in the city of Chicago. Double it because they have another 4,250 miles for sewer pipes. Okay? That water is pumped through the city to its suburban customers. So what you're paying for is this vast infrastructure system. When Franklin Park buys water from the city, Franklin Park has its own administration, its own billing, its own miles of pipes, probably its own secondary pumps, its own metering system, billing systems, so on and so forth. There is a very large infrastructure system of people, pipes, pumps, and so on and so forth that is required to provide clean water when you turn on your sink. Okay? There is another system that is required to get rid of the water once the water goes down the sink and actually goes off to a treatment plant. Okay? But the water itself, right now, we don't pay for the water. We pay for this system to deliver it. Okay? In Illinois, the demand for water is growing. This is the chart on the left is a couple of scenarios for potential demand for water. This comes from our regional water supply plan. If you're not familiar with Water 2050, this is Northeastern Illinois' regional water supply plan. The link for it is at the end of the presentation. Everything you could ever want to know about the region's water systems is right here in Water 2050, including all this information on projected increases in demand. The three scenarios that they had, the middle one that says 36%, That's sort of if we don't do anything differently than we do it today. We should expect a 36% increase in demand for water in the region over the next 40 years. If we continue to raise water rates to keep up with the actual cost of providing water, if we use more conservation practices, if we use more efficient fixtures and a range of other things, we can expect only a 7% increase in total demand for water. And if we just go hog wild and everybody has 10 shower heads in their shower and whatever, it's a 64% increase. Population growth in the region is expected to grow about 38%. The water resources that we have are finite. They're going to grow 0%. So our water supplies are going to grow 0%, and our demand for water is probably going to grow around 36%. And so all of this is a reason to be more efficient, manage our water better, manage that infrastructure system better so that it operates more efficiently to try and get that growth and demand down, because we're not going to have any new water anytime soon. National and regional trends. Franklin Park, Chicago, Oak Park, Blue Island, all of these communities are in the same boat. All of these communities that have been around for 100 years or so, so have their water systems. And that thing right there, which is this thing right here, is a water pipe, water main, that was dug out of a neighborhood in southwest part of Chicago. As it comes around, you will note that it is a tree. It is wood. And that pipe came out of the ground 2 years ago in a neighborhood in the southwestern part of Chicago. It had been in the ground for over 100 years, so good for that tree to last for 100 years. And the city and many of the suburban communities are, to this day, taking pipes out of the ground. They're not all wood. That's an extreme example. But they're taking pipes out of the ground that were installed when Theodore Roosevelt was president of the United States, right? This is 100 to 120 years ago. Those pipes have been in the ground. They were designed to last for 50 to 75 years. They've been down there for 100 to 120 years. They're cracked, they're rusty, they're leaking water. They need to come out of the ground. The national and regional trends are that our infrastructure is getting older, and if we don't pay to maintain it, repair it, keep it in good repair, it operates inefficiently. That's not a door prize. I want that back at the end. It took me a lot to get that. So every community around here, these older established communities, have this same challenge of repairing old, aging infrastructure.
This sounds like a good place to interrupt Josh. Our videographer, Bill Wilt, was pleased to cover this meeting because, like everyone else, including me, he is shocked at the 94.7% increase in water fees from the city of Chicago. For those who have watched this series, know that Bill isn't afraid to speak up. His question to me was, why should our water bills be going up when we live in walking distance from the largest freshwater supply in the world? And it's a good question. He said Josh answered his question in the first 15 minutes when he said, the water is free. You don't pay for the water. You pay for getting it there. And the explanation made perfect sense when it was explained some of the pipes are approaching 100 years old and few of them are under 60 years old. There is a more detailed information coming up, but Josh spoke for 43 minutes and we don't want to cut any of it out. So now we have a good place for a break as Josh gets into a new area. You'll see every bit of it, but you'll have to wait until volume 9 to continue. We're going to finish off today's show with our feature of Franklin Park, introducing new businesses in Franklin Park. Today, it's a very special new restaurant called Smoked on Rose. Join us as we check it out. Well, hello and welcome to Smoked on Rose. We're very proud to be here in Franklin Park, right here on 25th, across from East Leiden, and we have three owners with us, Kyle, Costas, and Aaron. Thanks for being with us, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank
Kyle?
you. Thank you for having us.
And thank you very much.
Good. Now, Kyle and Aaron have an interesting story. Both of them served our country. Kyle went to the Air Force, and his brother Aaron wishes he went into the Air Force, but ended up in the Navy. Just kidding about that. Thanks for serving.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And you worked on avionics?
Yes, I did.
Good. And Costas and Kyle met at the Chicago Board of Trade, right? And
Yes,
you've
that's
been in the
correct.
restaurant business for a while?
Yes,
And
10
what
years.
kind of doing with working with like Melman?
And Schulman, and Badansky, and Stoltzman, and many other people.
And you guys have over 30 years of experience in the restaurant business?
Combined, yes.
Good. And one of the interesting things is they have a 6,000 pound smoker that they moved up here. It's originally from Texas. They had to arrange to deliver this at night and then open up the doors here just to wheel it in, and you can never get this out of here. But we're going to look at that a little bit more carefully. But why did you guys choose this smoker, Kyle?
It's a perfect smoker for what we do. We've cooked with it for 2 years now. It's an offset smoker that provides perfect flavor for the food and like nothing else you've had to eat anywhere else. It's awesome.
And they have 10 employees. You've got, what, 4 cooks, 6 servers, and 5 other employees from Leiden High School right across the street.
We have a couple, and we're probably going to get a couple more. And hopefully we'll get local people if we can. Hopefully we have more business and we hire more people.
We're going to sit down a little bit to taste the food, but if you're in this room, you can smell it. It smells delicious. We're going to be setting up for a ribbon cutting here in a minute with the village trustees and the owners. Thanks for being with us. Flourishing business and new businesses in Franklin Park are the key to lower taxes and improving our standard of living. Let's get to the all-important ceremonial ribbon cutting, opening Smoked on Rose in Franklin Park. So we're so pleased that the new owners of Smoked on Rose located here. We're going to do a ribbon cutting, but first I want to introduce to my left is Tommy Thompson. Karen Special's a trustee with me, Bill Rule, John Johnson, and we've got a whole host of other employees with the Village of Franklin Park, including Ken Kohler, our president of the Chamber of Commerce, and I've got Stefano, who's going to help us cut the ribbon. Everybody grab a piece of the scissor, open it up. It's a hard one, and this really cuts. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh. See? Isn't it sharp? So come on out to Smoked on Rose. Come on out to Smoked on Rose. They're right here on 25th. It smells great and it tastes great. You're going to love it. Thank you. Following the ribbon cutting, we were invited to look around a bit before eating, and I was particularly interested in the 6,000 pound smoker brought up here to Franklin Park from the state of Texas. Well, Franklin Parkers, we're here with Kyle Goldstein, who is a U.S. Air Force veteran. He was avionics, so he used to work on the C-130s, but more importantly, he's here, and we're going to look at the 6,000 pound smoker that was brought in from Texas right here to Franklin Park to make some of the best tasting meats around. Kyle, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
So explain a little bit about this smoker that we're looking at. What is this thing?
It's a 6,000 pound piece of metal that was made for cooking delicious meats.
And is that what it's doing?
It's doing that right now.
Good. And what's this chamber right down here?
This is the Firebox right here.
Okay, and the Firebox is what?
The Firebox is where it contains the fire that creates the smoke that cooks the food. And our food is cooked with only hot smoke. There's no other type of fuel that cooks it. There's no gas, there's no electric in this device. It's only clean burning wood that you find in nature.
Good. Well, let's take a look at the chamber in a minute. But right now, let's take a look at this piece of wood, because this is a piece of
hickory.
And what's so special about this? Does it come from a tree farm, or did
No,
the village cut this down?
No, the village didn't cut this down. This came from it's an all virgin wood. That means it fell naturally. It wasn't cut down, and it fell in the woods. And then we extracted it out through different companies we've worked with them, and
in a sustainable manner, I would have you know.
Exactly. It's
good.
Very
and in Franklin Park, we're here all about sustainable.
Exactly. We are too.
Good. And so, what are the features of this kind of wood that make it so good for smoky meats?
Hickory is good for smoking meats because it provides an excellent flavor base for the meat. Unlike other woods like oak is good for heat source, but it won't give you a good flavor. Hickory, cherry, maple, apple, all for smoking meats, but we prefer oak.
Okay, well let's take a look at the chamber. Let's take a look at the chamber here, because the chamber has some of the meat that's actually cooking.
Yes.
Okay, hold on just a minute. We'll be right back with you. Well, Bill had to move the video equipment to get a better shot. Well, welcome back. We are talking about the 6,000 pound smoker, and we're right in front of the chamber where we're going to take a look at the product. And this is going to be a savory delight. Kyle, what are we looking at here?
Today we're going to be looking at barbecue ribs. We're looking at it. It's a St. Louis cut. That is it's a fattier piece, but when it cooks, these ribs cook for 6 hours. So when it cooks, it renders a lot of the fat and just all flavor.
And we're looking at smoke here. The only heat source here is the hot smoke. There's no flame.
That is correct. It's all hot smoke that cooks these over a long period of time.
And so this is a true smoker.
This is a true smoker.
Because some places add a heat element underneath and are firing it, which isn't really a smoking.
That's correct. You're baking it.
Well, good. Well, let's leave here and go out and try some of this delicious food and see some of the other people eating it. You really had to be there to appreciate the aroma. You'll just have to use your imagination. Well, that's it. We're completely out of time. Join us for Franklin Park Volume 9, where the explanation of the City of Chicago's water rate increases and the state of our infrastructure will be continued, plus much more. I'm Barrett Peterson, reminding you no mayor can get anything done without a hardworking, dedicated, elected board. And I want to recognize the efforts of John Johnson, Cheryl McLean, Andy Ibarra, Karen Special, Randy Peterson, Bill Rule, and Village Clerk Tommy Thompson. We'll see you next time on Franklin Park, Volume 9.